Getting their children off to a good start in school can be a tough task for parents who are homeless. Tonight, Yolanda Vasquez takes us to a school that focuses on the needs of homeless children.
I had just moved here to Baltimore City. I didn't really know anybody, you know what I mean?
Sheila Casey was going through a tough time 5 years ago and had trouble finding a good school for her toddler son.
I needed a place for Avon to be that was safe and secure while I was not with him.
She was fortunate enough to find the ARC preschool, now housed at Johnston Square Elementary School. It is a program of the Episcopal Community Services of Maryland and the only state-accredited preschool in Baltimore City that deals with children who are homeless.
Our mission, our goal is to get our children out of here. We want, and I'll tell parents at intake, I don't want your child with us.
And they're usually not in the program a long time. Average stay is about 3 to 4 months with a relatively small class size. But during that time, everyone on staff
Whoa, that is so big! Go ahead. Whoa!
gives these kids the individualized attention they need. They focus on early childhood education while providing them with nutritionally balanced meals, daily dental care.
You got it. You got it. Well done.
And a safe haven where they can play and socialize.
Our children are living in instability, and their lives are somewhat unpredictable. Many of our families have moved multiple times, and it's very hard on adults and very hard on children.
Earlier this year, the Maryland General Assembly approved the expansion of pre-K throughout the state. Newman hopes that effort extends to these kids, an invisible population that's slowly becoming the face of homelessness.
We're only seeing a fraction of the kids that are out there. We actually need to expand. We need to serve more, and we're doing the best we can with what we have.
They've helped my family out a tremendous amount. It wasn't just about helping Avon out. They helped the whole family.
In time, Casey got her substance abuse issues under control and settled into Baltimore City. But she is forever grateful to the folks at the ARC for helping her in a time of need.
So this program gives them a shot of hope for at least 6 to 7 hours that they're safe. It's a safe haven for them. And no matter what happens at home, they know that somebody loves them outside.
I'm Yolanda Vasquez for State Circle.
And joining us now is Kristina Kyles, Assistant State Superintendent for Student, Family, and School Support. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yolanda's story really points out that there are a lot of kids who get a really tough start in life, and there's a lot of ways that groups like Episcopal Community Services are trying to help.
And we're so excited that groups are developing to try to tackle this need for students and keeping that stability in education. And as we continue to move towards creating a world-class education for our students, this is really a great help.
You were a principal of Dunbar High before joining the State Department of Education as Assistant Superintendent. So we were looking at a story with little preschool kids, but at the high school level, I'm sure the phrase that was used in Yolanda's story at one point was instability. People have instability in their lives, and I'm sure you came across it.
Absolutely. And indeed, the idea of supporting students who have such transition in their home lives is a full-time support, right? It can be very hands-on. Every story can be different. Every need can be different. And so trying to help those students know their access rights, know that they are still an important student in the school and that they have the right to their education no matter what's going on. Trying to be available in the morning, noon for food and the like for these students. All those take shape in the school based on our regular normal operating policies.
Did you see a connection between the kids who might have had the toughest start in life and the kids who, once they were in high school and they get to that point where you're allowed to drop out, are maybe the people who are more susceptible to that?
So indeed, there are huge graduation concerns for students who have ongoing and persistent or concurrent transition issues. And there's supports available from the state for districts to try to help them mitigate those issues in an effort to ensure those students are at school. We know that attendance, whether it is chronic attendance for a positive reason, a negative reason, or an excused reason or unexcused reason, all plays a part in that student's ability to continue to grasp the information, continue to have the access to the content, and progress.
And before you can provide those services, you have to figure out which kids are in need of it, and especially at the high school level, maybe everybody isn't volunteering that information for a variety of reasons. They're embarrassed that the family is in a patch of bad luck, or they're concerned that it might somehow disqualify them from going to school.
Absolutely, and that's one reason why my hats are off to homeless coordinators in our districts. I know that they work tirelessly to make sure that we widely communicate those access points for homeless students, and that we make sure that those students understand that they are valuable and they are valid. But indeed, especially at the middle or high school level, as students begin to see their differences and they begin to become more self-conscious of their awareness, and clothes make a difference, and cleanliness, and students hit puberty, those types of issues do see themselves take shape in schools. And when our educators, teachers, guidance counselors, principals, and the like, they continue to take note of these anomalies, these issues, and help us identify those students.
So talk a little, if you could, about the state's role and responsibility, and then the counties and Baltimore City, and obviously there's some private organizations involved as well.
So there's federal regulations that require every local school system to have a homelessness program for students, and that is all under the McKinney-Vento law. And through that, federal funds do flow from the state to the counties, and counties are eligible to compete for competitive funds through the McKinney-Vento federal grant. That does allow districts to be able to deal with exceptional issues regarding homelessness. Those laws, whether you have the competitive grant or not, require all students to have access to the school of their origin. So if a student is experiencing transition and maybe they are currently in a shelter that's not as close to their school, if it's reasonable for that student to stay at that school, then it's their right to do so through transportation and the like.
So transportation can be provided so the child can go back to that original preschool, elementary school, and maybe the other kids there don't even know anything's up.
Yes, yeah. Also flexibility. So the idea, if I'm not currently living in my zone, but I'm in a shelter in a different zoned area for my school district, then I can have the flexibility to possibly go to a school near my shelter, which will allow me to then access somewhere where I can walk and the like, if that's more reasonable and more desirable for that student.
What's the impact on actually what you train to do, which is providing education and developing the students as good readers and writers and good at math?
The impact is huge, because we see that in graduation rates, we see it in attendance, and oftentimes when we take note of those issues, like attendance, we can early diagnose the issues and provide the supports.
In terms of the ability to connect these kids and their families to social services, that's something that most teachers also maybe weren't trained in when they got a certificate, but it's part of the ability to help out.
Absolutely, and a lot of state agencies and local agencies are coordinating these efforts. A lot of reporting mechanisms that have come out and have now cross those sectors, so that we get information from homeless shelters that allow us to feed that to school systems to let them know numbers and possibly identify students who are transitioning through these places. And so those cross-agency supports really allow for us to help identify and support those students.
And I'm thinking about the immigrant kids who have recently wound up in Maryland and other places, also had their lives pretty well disrupted. Similar kinds of help available?
Absolutely. The confounds under which homelessness is defined includes those populations, and they have access to the same rights as any homeless student.
And if somebody, a teacher, even a classmate or parent, sees issues with a child that might indicate that homelessness, you talked about cleanliness, what do? You go first to the teacher, the front office?
You know, it depends on who has a relationship with a student and who can recognize that something's not right. And a lot of those teachers, teachers will come out their pocket. You know, they'll try to figure out a way to support the kid in the mitigating circumstances, but they should indeed go straight to their guidance counselor, their social worker, maybe a psychologist, definitely an assistant principal and a principal to identify, and they can connect.
Kristina Kyles of the State Department of Education. We have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.